What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors goes head-to-head with a late-night host known for pushing buttons? What you're about to hear might change how you see celebrity interviews forever. Before we dive into this explosive moment, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because what unfolded that night might just shatter your perception of late-night television. It was a sweltering Tuesday under the glare of studio lights as Michael B. Jordan took his seat across from Jimmy Kimmel. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, expecting the typical light-hearted promo for Michael's latest blockbuster. But what they witnessed instead was a lesson in how quickly things can unravel when egos clash. Jimmy opened with his usual smug grin, charming to his fans, but tonight it felt different, calculated. "I've got to ask," Jimmy began, "about something that's been blowing up on social media. Some pretty wild stuff about your personal life." Michael shifted slightly. His smile remained, but his eyes sharpened. "Jimmy, I'm here to talk about the film. That's what we agreed on." "Oh, come on." Jimmy chuckled, though the laugh felt hollow. "The audience wants the truth. Don't you think they deserve that? You're on my show, in my chair. The least you can do is be honest with the people buying your movie tickets." The tension in the room was immediate. The audience, once lively, now sat still, sensing the energy shift. Michael's jaw tightened subtly. "With all due respect," he said calmly, "there's a line between honesty and gossip. I've always been transparent about what matters. My work, my craft, my purpose. That's what I'm here to share." Jimmy leaned in, voice dipping, into something condescending. "See, that's where you're wrong. Everything's fair game when you're in that seat. Your love life, your politics, your family. You don't get to control the narrative, Michael. That's not how this works." That last line hit differently. Michael's expression didn't change much, but something behind his eyes did. "Actually, Jimmy, that's how you think it works. There's a difference." "Oh, really?" Jimmy scoffed. "Please, enlighten me. You're the guest. I've been doing this longer than you've been in Hollywood. I think I know how my show works." The room fell silent. This wasn't clever banter anymore. This was real, tense, personal. Michael took a breath, composure intact but his frustration barely concealed. "I've done dozens of these shows, Jimmy. From Oprah to Howard Stern. Every one of them knew where the line was. Every one of them treated me like a human being first, a celebrity second." Jimmy laughed, but it came out bitter. "Human being. That's rich coming from someone who spent the last 5 years cashing in on the same tough guy role over and over. If we're talking exploitation, let's talk about you phoning it in for a paycheck." Gasps echoed from the audience. Michael's publicist, seated in the front row, looked horrified. But Michael himself didn't flinch. Instead, he went still, unnervingly still. His face shifted from hurt to something far colder. "Excuse me?" His voice was low and measured. "Did you just question my integrity as an actor?" "I'm questioning a lot of things," Jimmy fired back. "Your acting, your authenticity, that carefully polished image. Let's be real. You're just another Hollywood pretty boy who got lucky." The air grew thick with tension. Michael's hands, previously relaxed, now clenched on the armrests. The cameras zoomed in, sensing the moment. "Jimmy," he said, voice like a blade, "I suggest you think very carefully about what you say next, because you're not just disrespecting me. You're disrespecting every actor who's worked their entire life for this. Every kid dreaming of the stage. Every person who struggled for their shot. Jimmy scoffed again, waving a hand dismissively. Spare me the speech. Just because you've got some awards and a symmetrical face doesn't make you untouchable. This is late-night TV, Michael. If you can't take the heat, maybe stick to the superhero stuff, where everything's scripted and safe. And that was the moment everything changed. Michael's years of media training, his discipline, his public image. All of it was about to be tested like never before. It cracked like ice under pressure. Michael leaned forward in his chair, his voice dropping to a low whisper, a tone far more menacing than any raised shout. Let me explain something to you, Jimmy. I didn't luck into anything. Every role, I've landed every award on my shelf, every dollar I've earned. I earned through blood, sweat, and a dedication that would break most people. He paused, his eyes fixed. I've worked with directors who've forgotten more about filmmaking than you'll ever know about comedy. Jimmy snapped back, but the crack in his armor was showing. Is that supposed to intimidate me? You think your little tough guy act works here? This is my house, Michael. My show. My rules. Michael let out a cold, humorless laugh. Your house? He repeated. Jimmy, you're not even the funniest person in your own building. You're a middle-aged man whose greatest achievement is mocking people more talented, more successful, and frankly, more relevant than you'll ever be. Silence. Mouths covered. Eyes wide. Whatever this was, it wasn't entertainment anymore. It was a slow, public takedown, and no one knew how far it would go. Michael's voice rose, steady and sharp as a scalpel. You want to talk about my personal life? Fine. Let's talk about yours. Let's talk about how you built a career being the safe choice. The vanilla option networks go with when they want someone who won't rock the boat or challenge a single thought. Jimmy's face turned red. His usual calm was evaporating under the weight of Michael's words. You don't know what you're talking about. Michael leaned in, calm and cutting. Don't I? I think I know exactly what's happening here. You're threatened, Jimmy. You're threatened by people like me. People who take risks, who push boundaries, who create something that matters. While you read cue cards. You recycle punchlines written by a team of people funnier than you. And you sit here, night after night, pretending you're the sharpest guy in the room while interviewing people infinitely more interesting than you. The camera caught Jimmy's hands trembling slightly as he reached for his coffee mug. He gripped it too tightly, hoping to ground himself to pull back control. But it was already gone. Still, Michael wasn't done. You know what, Michael? Jimmy said, voice cracking slightly as he slammed the mug down. I think you've been reading too many of your own press releases. You're sitting there acting like some kind of artistic savant, when the truth is you're just another actor with good genetics and a decent agent. Michael tilted his head, studying him like he was examining a malfunctioning machine. Jimmy, are you having some kind of breakdown? Because honestly, this is painful to watch. Your audience deserves better than whatever this is supposed to be. Jimmy fired back instantly. My audience loves me. But his eyes darted nervously toward the crowd, who now sat frozen, unsure whether to laugh or leave. His confidence was slipping, and everyone could feel it. Michael gave a small, brutal smile. Do they, though? Because from where I'm sitting, they look embarrassed for you. Behind the cameras, Jimmy's producer was waving his arms in, panic, silently begging for a commercial break. But Jimmy didn't see him. Or maybe he couldn't afford to. The desperation was thick. Michael could smell it, and he pounced. You want to know what's really going on, Jimmy? You're angry. Angry that people like me exist. While you're up here every night making safe, toothless jokes about the news, people like me are out there creating real stories. Stories that challenge people. Stories that mean something. Jimmy laughed, bitter and humorless. You make movies, Michael. You play dress-up for a living. Don't act like you're changing the world. And you tell jokes for a living, Michael snapped back without hesitation. At least my work inspires people. At least when someone leaves one of my films, they might see something in themselves they never knew was there. When they watch your show, they get an hour of forgettable noise that helps them fall asleep. The audience stirred. A few heads nodded. A soft murmur rippled through the studio. Jimmy noticed, and that only made him more reckless, more dangerous. You think you're so much better? You think you're better than everyone else, don't you? Jimmy's voice was rising now, his composure long gone. You walk around Hollywood like you're royalty, like everyone should just bow down and worship the great Michael B. Jordan. Michael didn't flinch. I never said I was better than anyone, Jimmy, but I am better than this. His voice was firm, steady, too calm to ignore. Better than sitting here while you try to tear me down to feel relevant. Better than pretending this is entertainment when really, it's just sad. Michael started to stand, but Jimmy panicked. In a move that would haunt his career forever, Jimmy reached across the desk and grabbed Michael's arm. Sit down. We're not done here. The studio gasped. The contact was electric, like touching a live wire. Michael looked down at Jimmy's hand, then slowly up at his face, with an expression so cold it could have frozen molten rock. His voice dropped to a whisper, low, lethal. Jimmy, I need you to take your hand off me. Right now. Something in Michael's tone finally cut through the forked haze of Jimmy's rage. He let go immediately, but the damage was already done. The line had been crossed, and everyone in the room knew it. Michael's voice, barely above a murmur, was now unmistakably dangerous. Did you just put your hands on me? Did you just physically try to force me to stay in a chair so you could continue humiliating me on national television? Jimmy's face went pale. Michael, I didn't mean to. I was just... You were just what? Michael snapped. So, desperate to control the moment that you forgot basic human decency? That you forgot I'm a person, not your property. The silence was total. Even the camera operators had stopped moving. Michael stood slowly, and suddenly, Jimmy looked small, like a child at the principal's desk. You know what the truly sad part is, Jimmy? Michael said, voice heavy with disappointment. I came here tonight excited to talk about my work, my craft. I came here with respect for you, for your show. I thought we could have a real conversation about art, about creativity, about what matters. Jimmy opened his mouth to respond, but Michael held up a hand. No, you had your chance. Now it's my turn. Michael's tone turned steel. You want to know what I think about you? I think you're a coward. You're so terrified of becoming irrelevant. You'll tear down anyone who reminds you of how small your world really is. Jimmy's voice cracked as he tried to regain control. Michael, please, can we start over? Michael laughed, a short, bitter sound. Start over? Jimmy, there's no starting over from this. You showed the world who you are tonight, not the funny guy behind the desk, not the entertainer. You showed them you're a bully with a microphone. The audience sat frozen, witnessing the most uncomfortable and unforgettable moment in late-night history. Some people were filming it. Others just stared, wide-eyed. The air was electric, heavy. Michael's voice cut through it like a scalpel. I've been in this industry over a decade. I've worked with the best directors, the most talented actors, the most creative minds Hollywood has to offer. And never, not once, have I encountered someone as unprofessional as what you've shown tonight. Jimmy's hands were visibly shaking now as he reached for his water. Michael, maybe we should take a break. Let everyone cool down. Michael arched an eyebrow. Jimmy, I am cool. I'm probably the calmest person in this entire building. You're the one who's falling apart. You're the one who's lost control of your own show. That truth hit like a punch to the gut. Jimmy scanned the room in desperation, looking to his band, his writers, his crew, but found only blank, uncomfortable faces. Some turned away. Others looked at him with pity. And then Michael turned to the camera, direct, unapologetic. You want to know what's really happening here? This man invited me on his show under false pretenses. He told my team we'd be talking about my new film, my creative process, my upcoming work. Instead, he tried to ambush me with gossip and personal attacks. And when I refused to play his game, he got angry. So angry he put his hands on me, just to try to force me into participating in my own public humiliation. The air in the studio grew still, like everyone had forgotten to breathe. This wasn't just an awkward moment anymore. This was a career implosion, and it was happening live. Michael turned back to Jimmy, quieter now, sharper. Look at me, Jimmy, really. Look at me. Do you see what you've become? Do you understand that in 5 minutes, you've destroyed everything you spent years building? Jimmy finally looked up. His eyes were red, watery. For a moment, it looked like he might apologize. That he might salvage something, anything, from the wreckage. But instead, he made the worst decision of his career. He doubled down. Jimmy's face twisted into something grotesque. Not anger exactly, but something close. Desperation, maybe. He turned to the audience with a smile so forced it looked more like pain. You know what, folks? He said, his voice shaky but rising. I think we're seeing the real Michael B. Jordan tonight. This is what happens when Hollywood divas don't get their way. They throw tantrums like children. The audience gasped. Not the kind of gasp you build a punchline around. This was different. Sharp. Stunned. Even Jimmy's most loyal fans looked uncomfortable. Michael didn't move. He just stared. Diva, Michael echoed. His voice was low, dangerous. You grabbed me. You ambushed me. You tried to humiliate me in front of the world. And I'm the diva? Jimmy, do you even hear yourself? But Jimmy was too far gone to hear anything except the sound of his own unraveling. This is why I don't usually have guests like this on, Jimmy snapped, turning to the cameras now, as if trying to salvage control through bravado. They come in here thinking they're too good for real questions, too important to be held accountable. Well, this is my show, and on my show, nobody is above being called out. Silence. Not the kind you build tension with, the kind that makes your skin prickle. Michael looked slowly around the studio, at the crew, the stunned audience, the frozen camera operators. He took a breath. Guests like this? He repeated, calmly. The words echoed. Jimmy, what exactly do you mean by guests like this? Jimmy hesitated, a flicker of panic behind his eyes. I didn't mean, I just meant, you know, difficult, demanding guests. Michael's gaze didn't shift. No, Jimmy, that's exactly what you meant. And now, everyone knows it. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. It carried weight and judgment. You had a chance to rise above this, he continued, to be gracious, professional, human. But instead, you chose to show the world exactly who you are when the cameras are rolling. Jimmy was sweating now. His shirt clung to him at the collar. His hands fumbled with his cue cards, but they were too damp to hold. Michael, I think you're overreacting. This is just a conversation. Michael let out a short, humorless laugh. No, Jimmy. A conversation requires mutual respect. This is a desperate man trying to drag someone down, and that, someone refusing to sink. Around them, the band exchanged nervous glances. Writers stared at their feet. Producers whispered urgently into headsets. The feeling in the room had shifted. This wasn't just a meltdown. It was history in the making. You want to know what I think really happened here tonight? Michael asked, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. You saw me walk in here, confident, successful, respected, and it reminded you of everything you're not, everything you'll never be. Jimmy stammered something, but the words barely formed. From where I'm standing, Michael said, you look like a man so terrified of fading into irrelevance that you'd rather light your career on fire just to feel like you're still holding the match. Michael turned to leave, but Jimmy, still clinging to a shred of control, called after him. You can't just walk off, Michael. We still have 10 minutes left. Thorson turned slowly, his expression unreadable, somewhere between pity and disgust. Watch me. Jimmy's voice cracked. If you leave, you'll never work in this town again. I have friends, connections. I can make sure... Stop. Michael cut in, his tone flat and final. Just stop. Do you hear yourself right now? You're threatening me, because I won't sit here and let you abuse me on live television. The crowd sat frozen. Some covered their mouths. Some stared in disbelief. But all of them knew this moment would never be forgotten. Michael's voice softened, but carried even more weight. Let me explain something to you, Jimmy. I don't need you. I don't need your show, your approval, your fake charm. I need to work with people who understand that talent isn't a threat. It's a gift, something to be celebrated, not destroyed. Jimmy opened his mouth, but Michael raised a hand. I'm not finished. You said I'll never work in this town again. Jimmy, this town is built on talent, on vision, on the ability to connect. You've just proven, on national television, that you possess none of those things. If anyone's career is in danger tonight, it's not mine. Michael stepped closer. His voice was nearly a whisper now, and yet somehow more powerful than ever. You want to know the difference between us. When people look back on this moment, they'll remember a man who stayed calm, and another who came undone. One who stood for something, one who crumbled under the weight of his own ego. Which one do you think you are? Jimmy looked up, lips parting, but no words came out. You wanted to talk about my personal life? Michael said. Fine, here's something personal. I was raised to lift people up, not tear them down, to walk in integrity, whether the cameras are on or not. My mother would be ashamed of me if I stayed here one more second and pretended this was okay. Michael straightened his jacket, looked into the main camera. To everyone watching at home, to my fans, to anyone who has ever believed in me, thank you. What you just witnessed isn't entertainment. It's a cautionary tale about what happens when insecurity and power go unchecked. He turned back to Jimmy one last time, now slumped in his chair like a man crushed under his own spotlight. Jimmy, I hope, sincerely, you get the help you need. Because this This isn't who you have to be, but it's who you chose to be tonight, and you'll have to live with that, without me." Michael walked toward the edge of the stage. At the stairs, he paused, turned. "You know what's really sad?" he said, not to Jimmy, but to the air. "I used to watch your show. I used to think you were funny. I respected what you built. But tonight I realized that person I admired, he never actually existed." And with that, Michael B. Jordan walked off the stage, through the stunned audience, out of the studio, and straight into entertainment history. Jimmy sat frozen at his desk, the spotlight too bright, the silence too loud. The cameras kept rolling. The credits never came. Eventually, he looked into the lens, eyes hollow. "We'll be right back," he whispered. But everyone knew. They wouldn't. Not really. That night, the show cut to an unscheduled commercial break that never ended. The next broadcast was the local news. Somewhere in Los Angeles, Michael B. Jordan drove home with his reputation intact, his integrity undeniable, and his conscience clear. That was the night one of Hollywood's brightest stars reminded the world what real strength looks like. That was the night a late-night legend fell. That was the night television history was made, one devastating truth at a time.